Maybe this video found you at the right time, when you've started to wonder why certain emotions, fears, or reactions keep showing up, no matter how much you try to change. You've healed, grown, evolved, yet something inside still pulls you back. That's not failure, that's your shadow calling for your attention. The part of you you've learned to hide, suppress, or deny. But here's the truth. What you bury doesn't disappear. It waits. And until you turn toward it, peace will always feel just out of reach. This is where shadow work begins, in awareness. There's a side of you the world rarely sees. The part that feels envy, anger, guilt, fear, and insecurity. The part you've been taught to hide behind smiles, success, or silence. But that hidden part of you, the one you think is too dark or too messy to love, is exactly where your truth lives. This is what psychologists call the shadow self, a term made famous by Carl Jung. It's not something evil or broken. It's simply the part of your subconscious that holds everything you've disowned about yourself. The emotions you were told were too much, the dreams that felt unrealistic, the anger you weren't allowed to express, and the pain you never felt safe enough to show. Think about it. When you were younger, maybe you learned that being quiet made you lovable, or that being confident made you arrogant. So you dimmed your voice. You shrank yourself to fit into spaces that didn't deserve you. And over time, those pieces of you didn't disappear, they just went underground. But even in the dark, they still move. They still influence the choices you make, the relationships you attract, and the emotions that rise when you least expect them. That's why you might find yourself repeating patterns, falling for the same kind of people, reacting the same way when criticized, or sabotaging good things without understanding why. Those moments aren't coincidences. They're your shadow trying to speak to you, saying, "Look at me. You've ignored me long enough." Shadow work isn't about fixing what's wrong. It's about remembering what's real. It's realizing that your anger might actually be your strength, your envy might reveal what you truly desire, and your guilt might be the echo of your empathy. Every emotion has wisdom underneath it, if you're brave enough to listen. When the shadow shows up, in jealousy, procrastination, defensiveness, or shame, don't run. Pause, breathe, ask it, "What are you trying to show me?" The truth it reveals might sting, but it will also set you free. Because the moment you stop fighting your shadow and start understanding it, you stop living in pieces. You finally start living whole. Every shadow has a story. Your shadow doesn't reveal itself with thunder and lightning. It whispers quietly, subtly, through patterns you often overlook. It lives in your reactions, in your discomfort, in the moments you feel most triggered. The shadow hides behind the emotions you suppress, the parts of yourself you secretly judge, and the masks you wear to stay accepted. Think of the times you felt jealous of someone's success. Beneath that jealousy isn't hatred. It's your own unacknowledged desire. A part of you that longs for expression but was once told it wasn't allowed. Or notice when you feel an instant dislike toward someone you barely know. Often, that's your shadow projecting an aspect of yourself you haven't yet made peace with. It's in defensiveness, too. When you feel an urgent need to prove you're right, to protect an image of who you think you are. That's the shadow clinging to control, terrified of being seen as flawed. And sometimes, it shows up as perfectionism, the endless striving to be good enough, because deep down you fear that being imperfect means being unworthy of love. The signs are everywhere. In guilt that lingers too long, in resentment that keeps resurfacing, in emotional numbness that feels safer than feeling too much. Your shadow can even disguise itself as overconfidence, a loud persona built to hide quiet insecurity. Recognizing these signs isn't about blaming yourself. It's about awareness. When you begin to see your shadow in action, you stop being controlled by it. Awareness is the light that begins to melt the ice of denial. You'll notice your triggers not as enemies, but as invitations, each one pointing to an unhealed story, an emotion that once had no voice. The more you observe without judgment, the more clearly you'll see that your shadow isn't your enemy. It's the wounded part of you asking to be heard. And this is where the real work begins, not in rejecting your darkness, but in acknowledging it with compassion. Because the moment you turn toward your shadow, you stop living in resistance and start living in truth. The signs were never meant to shame you. They were meant to guide you back to the wholeness you forgot you already are. To face the darkness is to walk into the very place your soul has been avoiding. It's not an easy step. It's raw, uncomfortable, and deeply revealing. But it's also the most sacred moment of your healing journey. Because only when you dare to face what's hidden can you truly begin to transform it. Your darkness isn't evil. It's misunderstood energy, pain, anger, shame, and fear that were never given space to breathe. Maybe you were told not to cry. Maybe you were taught to be strong, to keep it together, to move on. But emotions don't disappear just because we ignore them. They wait, quietly, in the corners of our subconscious. Facing the darkness means allowing those buried parts to finally be seen. It means sitting with your pain without rushing to fix it. It means looking at your anger, not as a monster, but as a messenger showing you where your boundaries were crossed. It means listening to your sadness, not as weakness, but as a reminder of how deeply you care. You might tremble, you might cry, you might feel lost for a while, but understand this: the darkness you fear is not there to destroy you. It's there to free you. Every tear, every ache, every memory you revisit is light returning to the places it once abandoned. This process requires compassion, the kind you've rarely shown yourself. Instead of judgment, offer understanding. Instead of running from what you feel, breathe through it. The deeper you go, the more you'll realize that your shadow doesn't need to be fought. It needs to be held. Because facing your darkness isn't about conquering it. It's about merging with it, embracing the totality of who you are. When you stop rejecting your pain, it transforms into wisdom. When you stop fearing your past, it becomes your teacher. And that's when something powerful happens. The light within you expands, not by denying the dark, but by integrating it. This is the moment you stop running. This is the moment you come home to yourself. Integration isn't about destroying your shadow. It's about welcoming it home. You don't need to erase your anger, jealousy, or fear. You need to understand what they've been trying to tell you all along. Every part of you, even the ones you hide, carries wisdom. Integration happens when you stop running from those parts and begin to listen with compassion. Start with gentleness. When an uncomfortable emotion arises, pause. Don't rush to fix it, distract yourself, or label it as bad. Instead, breathe and acknowledge it. You can say to yourself, "I see you. I know you're trying to protect me." That simple act transforms resistance into awareness. Integration means taking the hand of the parts of you that once felt unlovable and saying, "You belong." It's in that moment of acceptance that healing begins. The shadow loses its power not because you've fought it, but because you've embraced it. The light that heals you is not something outside of you. It's the light of awareness, of presence, of love. You might cry. You might feel uncomfortable. That's okay. Integration is not always gentle, but it's always liberating. The walls you built to stay safe begin to crumble, and in their place grows a quiet strength. You start realizing that your sensitivity is not weakness. It's depth. Your anger is not evil. It's passion asking to be understood. Your fears are not barriers. They're signposts pointing you toward freedom. The more you hold space for these parts, the more inner peace you create. You'll find that what once triggered you now teaches you. You'll stop needing to perform or please. You'll simply be. Integrating the light is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. When you honor both your darkness and your light, you align with your truest self. The light doesn't erase the shadow. It embraces it until separation no longer exists. And in that sacred balance, where your heart no longer rejects your wounds but listens to them, you find peace that no external validation can give. You remember that you were never broken to begin with. You were simply waiting to come home to yourself. And now, you see it. The shadow was never your enemy. It was your unhealed self, waiting patiently to be seen, not feared. You are both the storm and the sunlight breaking through it, both the wound and the wisdom that grew from it. When you stop fighting your own reflection, you finally find peace. Not the kind that hides in silence, but the kind that comes from wholeness. You've met your shadow. You've heard its voice. And now you walk lighter. because you're no longer at war with yourself. You've become your own light.